The two main things you want to learn about editing is cutting and trimming. In this case, the tool we're using is called the blade edit mode. And to activate that, the shortcut key is B. If you look at the timeline here, you see I'm on the selection tool, and that shortcut is A. A and B you're going to use a lot. So if you look at my timeline here, you see that the arrow is still on selection. When I click B, you're going to get this razor-like icon. And this is where if you were to click onto the clip, you see that it's going to cut the footage. So if I click over here, it's going to cut it as well. Now, what you can do is something I do often for editing on the timeline is, let's say I have my timeline selected. I know the point I want to cut is here to get rid of all this here. It's still highlighted, and I'm just simply going to press delete, and it's going to shift everything over so that my starting point is at the beginning, right? So if I clipped from here, if I cut from there, and then I know this is a mistake here because there's such a big gap, and then I cut from there. If I click delete again because it's highlighted, it's going to shift everything over. What if I just wanted to delete this without shifting things? Well, you press backspace. And now this enables me to put in another piece of footage, or maybe a title or something else I wanted in there. Now the other tool I'm going to show you here is called the trim mode. Shortcut key is T. Now you're going to see this icon here highlighted. And what the trim mode does, it sort of trims on the fly. So for example, what I can do here is use the trim tool. I can just move it here, drag it from like where the graphic is. And that part I want to start off there. So it's like I'm pushing the footage over. And then the other way of trimming is by grabbing certain areas of the clip. Let's say I knew that I'm going to end my clip here. I'm going to hold the end of this clip and drag it to the left instead of cutting it. So again, it really depends on what you're doing. You kind of have to find your way of trimming, your way of editing. I tend to cut more than I trim, and trim's kind of for fine tuning. One tip I can give you here is that you'll notice these three little magnifying glasses here, and this is to zoom into your timeline. So I mostly use custom, and custom you could manually do it. You see how now it's smaller, it's decreased in size. If I put it closer to the plus area, that it increases in length. And this I would use especially if I'm really fine-tuning my clips. Say I wanted to cut down some of these empty spaces. I could go in here, cut that out, and remove those gaps. So that's pretty handy there. Another tip I can give you for editing, let's see if I can find, I'm going to find a part where I don't like the audio. A comment or yeah, so this here, you see that little that plosive. Let's say I want to take that part of the audio out. As you see, currently the footage is linked with the audio. If I right click on here, you see link clips here. The shortcut key is Control Alt L. If you click on that, now the clips are separate. So now when I click it, they're separate. So what I like to do here, again, I can zoom in, and I'm going to click on B to cut and take that plosive out. So they get upset. So now you don't hear that plosive, right? So another tip I can show you, what I like to do is fade the beginning in. And if you notice here, there's a handle that pops up, this white handle. If you grab that and drag it to the right, the farther right it is, the longer that fade in will be. I'm just going to do it for, let's see, 0.15 seconds. See how it fades in there? Same thing with the audio. You could do the same thing. Let's say you had music or something. You could do, actually, let's do it with music here. So if I were to play this
What's
audio
good,
now,
creators? It's been a minute.
but let's say I wanted to fade it in. I just grab that handle. Actually, let me fade the footage too.
What's good, creators? It's been a minute. I know I haven't been around. I know you.
So that's how to do fade ins and fade outs. Basically, fade outs the same thing at the end of the clip or on your audio. Now let's talk about the inspector. Let's say I wanted to punch this image in, make it slightly bigger, like that punch in and out effect. So as long as you highlight the clip, click on inspector here on the right, and you're going to see under video your options here. Transform is in terms of moving your footage. Position is left and right for the x-axis. Y is up and down. Zoom is what you would do to increase the size of your footage. So we'll go from this. See how it pops in. And let's say I wanted to cut from here and put this back to the original size. I'm just going to click on this icon here, and this resets. Watch the numbers here. It resets it back to default to its original settings. So if we look at it here, and that's how you do that punch in, punch out effect. The other thing you can do here in the inspector is crop right. This is good if you're using multiple footage, like you're layering footage on top of the other, and you want to crop certain areas of it. Now there's a whole bunch of other things we can work with, but again, we'll save that for another video. Audio works the same way. I mainly use the inspector for volume. Two ways you can increase the volume here is like if you see this white line here, you can increase or decrease the volume by, sliding your mouse up or down. You see that I'm increasing the volume here by 11 dB. That's way too much. Or I can decrease it to a negative. Now I can do that as well from here. You see that the number has changed. I can change it here as well. If you have other graphics or other elements that you want to put on top of your footage, I'm just going to pick something random here. And let's say I wanted just this footage here to appear here. So as you see, now that I've imported this footage, it's on video 2. And whatever is on top is going to show over what's on video 1. So if I play this, it's now going to override the footage that's underneath. The reason why I bring this up is if you wanted to do that picture-in-picture look, you can grab this footage, go to zoom, decrease the size, and put this in the corner using the X and Y. You can play that way. Assuming you've done all your cuts and all your trimming and you want to add some titles, if you go to top here, click on Effects Library. Just below here, you're going to see titles. Let's do center reveal, and it just reveals itself in the center. You'll see the blue lines here start to go. See how the red is turning to blue? That's just the system rendering this title. So you want to give it a few seconds so that you can preview it. Now here, I'm just going to go Davinci Resolve. And of course you could change the fonts. Say I wanted to use that one. And I can use bold, regular, italic, typical font settings. I can change the colors here if I wanted to, and of course all these other options: size, tracking, line spacing. Really just experiment with it. I'm going to keep it really basic, but typically you would put the text on top of the footage. I guess since we're here, I can talk to you quickly about transitions, show you how it works, and basically what you want to do. Let's say I wanted a cross dissolve. You simply drag it in between the cut of the two clips. So let me zoom in here, and you see this transition here. Now if I look at the footage, see how it has that gradual cross dissolve there. Now if I click on the actual transition, I can adjust it here. You know, the length of it, the style. I could change the type here. Let's say I wanted to change it to a center wipe instead. It does that center wipe effect. There you go. And that's how you can put in transitions. Once you're happy with your edit, the last thing to do is render and export your movie. So on the bottom right here, you're going to see this deliver icon. We're going to click on that. And since this is a very basic and beginner tutorial, I'm going to encourage you to use the default YouTube settings. We'll get into the custom settings when we get into other videos, but for now, just click on the YouTube icon, click on the arrow here so that you get your options. Make sure you're on 1080p. If you are going 4K, you could choose 2160. And of course, you want to give it a name. I'm just going to call mine DR. And the location you want to save it. I'm just going to pick my desktop. The only thing here I would change is whether you wanted QuickTime or MP4. QuickTime is going to give you just a little bit of better quality, but a bigger file size. MP4 is going to give you more of a compressed file with slightly degraded quality, but you know, you can hardly see the difference between the two. Now, once you're done that, all you have to do really is click add to render queue, and then you're going to see on the right here job 1 and click on render all. Now if you didn't do any color correction or add any of the other effects, Davinci Resolve could render fairly quickly. It's just the more you add to it, the longer the render will be. So again, try to keep it really simple so that you can, you know, render your projects faster. So I know that was still a lot to cover. I said in the beginning, there's so much to cover. That's why I wanted to keep it very basic. As always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.